You know, even if it's not a song you wrote, it's still fun to go in there and see what you can do, you know, how you can make it and how pretty you can make it or how different you can make it.
Millions of people love George Strait, a country music star whose songs never go out of style. Behind all the fame, though, his family has had problems that most people don't know about. What does it mean when the child of a celebrity is hurt in public? The focus on the world can be bad for George's child. The trip isn't easy. Stay tuned to find out how this family is handling a story that doesn't seem likely: George Strait's triumphs. George Strait is one of the biggest names in country music. He is truly the king of country, as many people call him. Since then, George has put out more than 60 songs and sold more than 100 million copies. Among the many awards he has won is the prestigious CMA Entertainer of the Year award. He is special, though, not just because of his music, but also because of the way he writes songs that make people feel strong emotions. Because he is friendly and has a clear voice, George has always stood out from other singers. People were interested in his songs about love, life, and everything else. George always put his family first, even when he was the center of attention. He fell in love with her in high school, and they spent a happy musical life together. Their son was named George Strait Jr., but they called him Bubba. Even when George had to travel across the country for work, he was always there for his kids. The family stayed close because of this. George worked hard to hide his personal life, even though he was well known. The Strait family was very close. He didn't change anything about his home life because he didn't want the attention to put stress on his kids. They grew up on a ranch in Texas. It was a quiet place where they could be kids and hang out with their parents without anyone else seeing them. Even though George and Norma loved and cared for their kids a lot, being popular wasn't always easy. Being the son of a famous artist, Bubba got a lot of attention that most kids his age didn't get. People were always interested in George Strait to find out what it was like to have a dad like him. When you're trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do with your life, living under the shadow of a famous person can be tough. A few people knew a little about Bubba at first. George loved his kids very much and wanted them to have their own place. But as Bubba aged, more people paid attention to him and made friends with him. Bubba wasn't sure if he wanted to be like his dad or go in a different direction. George was always calm when things got tough. You don't have a famous country music dad every day, after all. It can be hard for a young child to be liked by so many people who want him to be like his dad. They tried to keep Bubba's life as normal as possible for him during all of this. They tried to let him make his own decisions. Still, George Strait was always closely watched by the public. A lot of people really cared about him because he was his son. Life was hard for his dad in general, not just because he was popular. It can be hard for kids to live in a house where everyone always looks good. Just like any other kid, Bubba had good and bad times. The stress of living with a famous family could get to him sometimes. He always knew that his family would be there for him, even when things went badly. He was George Strait's son and loved by his whole family. Let's find out more about Bubba's hard times and how they made him the man he is now. We'll also find out how important it was for him that his family was there for him. But first, it's important to know how much George Strait's work and love for his family changed Bubba's life and prepared him for what was to come. Behind George Strait's iconic legacy lies a story of family challenges that will leave you questioning what's truly important. A family's darkest hour. The life of George Strait's son Bubba looked great from the outside. His childhood was happy and healthy. He grew up on a beautiful Texas ranch with a famous father. Like a lot of other people, Bubba had problems that weren't always clear. Dealing with tough situations is hard for everyone, but especially for young people. There are also a lot of eyes on you when you are the child of a famous person like George Strait. Things were hard for Bubba in his personal and public life, which made things even worse for him. When Bubba's older sister Jennifer died in a car crash, it was one of the hardest things that ever happened to him. Jennifer was a very important family member, so her death touched everyone. But Bubba felt it the most. Everyone loses a brother, but Bubba had a really hard time with it. he had to deal with both the constant interest of the world and the loss of it. Bubba's life changed when his sister died, and it was hard to explain how it affected him. No matter how much love and support his family gave him, it was a terrible time. Besides dealing with this sadness, Bubba also had to deal with problems in his own life. Over time, it became clear that Bubba was dealing with his own stress and problems. As a result of loss and grief, people always have problems with their mental health. Being famous makes things even harder for Bubba. People were always looking at him, judging him, and trying to figure out what was going on in his personal life. As a result, it was harder for Bubba to be open about his feelings or ask for help. The media, on the other hand, made assumptions about Bubba while he was dealing with himself. Being George Strait's child got you a lot of attention that made things look much better than they were. The news started to talk about his problems, but they didn't always tell the right story. The media sometimes made things more exciting by focusing on the scariest parts without looking at the bigger picture. This only made Bubba more upset. Imagine that you are already going through a tough time, and then everyone seems to be talking about you in ways that don't feel right. The reporters sometimes didn't feel sorry for Bubba when they talked about his problems. But this wasn't always the case. Reporters sometimes made it seem like his personal problems were caused by his father's fame. The media sometimes made it seem like Bubba's health problems and pain were caused by something outside of his control, even though they were real. Because he couldn't avoid the constant news stories and rumors about him, this made it harder for Bubba to handle his own feelings. His private life was never really private. Norma, George's wife, and Bubba were with him the whole time. The parents knew that their son was having a really hard time. They didn't want him to feel alone, especially since everyone was watching. Not only did George and Norma say they supported, but they also did things to show it. They helped Bubba deal with his loss and health problems in secret, and they also kept him out of the public eye. It was clear that they wanted him to heal at his own pace without having to deal with the extra stress of being the kid of a famous person. Even though his parents helped him a lot, Bubba still had to deal with the emotional strain of his troubles. How much George and Norma hurt for their son, because no parent wants to see their child in pain. Seeing Bubba go through such hard times broke their hearts. They did everything they could to help him, even though it would take time. They were there for him through it all because they knew it would take time to get better. Even though Bubba was still having trouble, the Strait family grew closer. They stayed strong because of the love and support they gave each other as a family. They never gave up on their kid, even when it seemed like everyone else did too. In the end, Bubba got through such a hard time in large part because of their unwavering love and support. Even though the road was hard, they took it together, which was what made the difference. Someone tells the public a secret about George Strait's son. How will this affect their family and how people see them? A deep secret revealed. Not long ago, shocking news came out about Bubba Strait, George Strait's son. The Strait family worked hard to keep this a secret for years, but in the end, the truth came out. It was found that Bubba had been struggling with drug abuse. The family found this hard to accept because Bubba had always been seen as quiet and shy, staying out of the public eye. Many people were shocked that he was dealing with such a big problem, especially since he had a loved and stable family. The Strait family was shocked when they heard this. When George and Norma found out that their child was going through such a hard battle, it broke their hearts. With the way things are now, no parent ever wants to see their child suffer. People thought of George as a calm and steady person, but this situation tested his ability to be a good father. As a well-known figure, George had always tried to keep his family life a secret. But once the news got out, people began to question whether he was a good father. They thought about how someone from such a close family could be in this situation. This added more stress to a time that was already hard for Bubba and his folks. George and Norma stayed with Bubba even though the public and the media were watching. They didn't turn their backs on him again. Instead, as he worked on getting better, they quietly supported him. The bond between George and Bubba got a little stronger instead of weaker. George told his son that no matter what, he loved him and would always be there for him. Even though it was hard, the fight made the bond between father and son stronger. Still, the media's reaction was not as positive. The news started to make Bubba's situation more interesting by focusing on the most exciting parts. Some stories about George and his family made them look bad, as if they hadn't helped Bubba earlier. The media's portrayal of the family made things harder for Bubba, who was already having his own problems. Being in the public eye made him feel more stressed, which made it harder for him to handle the situation in private. The constant media attention only made him feel worse. George Strait had to find a balance between his public image and his personal life in a way he had never had to before because of how well-known he was. Well-known country singer George had always been honest with his fans, but he worked hard to keep his family out of the spotlight. George had to find a way to balance his work progress with his son Bubba's needs now that they were clear. The balance was hard to keep, but George put his family ahead of everything else. The news about Bubba's drug use also led to a broader conversation about private and public life. They deal with their own problems in front of a lot of people, but not many have to do it while being watched so closely. The Strait family kept stressing that they needed to fix things and help each other. They showed that when it comes to love and family, public opinion comes last. Overcoming life's toughest battles. In the years since the hard times, George Strait's son Bubba has been working hard to get past problems. Even though it won't be easy for Bubba to get better, he has shown growth and strength as he heals. He is clearly taking responsibility for the things that happened in the past and trying to make things better in his life. Bubba has learned to accept the idea of recovery, get help when he needs it, and pay close attention to his own well-being, even though his struggles with personal issues and addiction were hard. It takes time to heal, but Bubba's courage and determination to face his problems shine through. Bubba's family has been very helpful to him during these hard times. He has had George and Norma by his side through every part of his life, giving him love, support, and understanding. Bubba seemed to be being judged by everyone, but they never gave up on him. Bubba's parents' steadfast support has been very important as he deals with his personal problems. Their love gave him the strength to keep going no matter how hard things got. Bubba knows that he is not alone because his family is with him. This has made a big difference in his life. The Strait family has had to overcome many challenges and learn important lessons along the way. One of the most important things they've learned is how important it is to be strong. Life is full of surprises, but the key to getting through them is to not give up. Even though things have been hard, George, Norma, and Bubba have all shown great strength. As a family, they have helped each other and looked for ways to get better. All of us can learn from this strength that we can find hope and strength even in the worst situations. The Strait family's trip shows people how important it is to stick together through hard times. Family help is one of the most useful things someone can have when things are hard. You need people you can count on, whether it's a public fight or a private one. The Strait family shows us that the love and support of our closest friends and family is the most important thing, no matter how famous you are. Their story shows us that it's never too late to change and that it is possible to heal. After all the hard times, George Strait's family is stronger than ever. Life is full of ups and downs, but with love, strength, and help, we can get through anything. Bubba still has a long way to go, but his family's unwavering support helps him deal with the difficulties of daily life. For years to come, they and everyone else will remember the lesson of strength, love, and family. What can a family do to stay strong when everyone knows about their problems? The Strait's trip shows everything. How family struggles shaped George Strait's story. There are some tough things about being from a famous family, like always being watched by the public. Growing up in the spotlight meant that Bubba Strait, George Strait's son, had to deal with problems that most people can't even imagine. Kids are usually expected to live up to a certain image or standard. It can be hard for the children of famous people to live up to these standards. Because Bubba Strait is the son of famous country music singer George Strait, everyone in the media were watching everything he did. It's even harder for him to deal with his own problems because even small mistakes or issues could be brought to light and become news. Bubba is not the only one who is stressed out. Many famous people's children and grandchildren have had to deal with the weight of their parents' fame. Star children like those of Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, and Whitney Houston have also been closely watched by the public and the media. Families with famous parents often have trouble staying true to themselves because of the fame of their parents. Some people have problems with the pressure because of their mental health, addiction, or how other people see them. These kids are sometimes expected to do things that aren't realistic or easy like Bubba is. This is especially true when they are just starting to find their own way in life. George Strait's famous status in the country music world has not been hurt by the problems his son faced. Still, they have added another layer of complexity to his memory. George is still one of the most famous and successful country singers of all time. But the story of his family shows that even the most successful and seemingly perfect families have hard times. George's impact goes beyond his music and includes how much he loved and cared for his family. First, the fact that George is always there for Bubba when things get tough shows that he is a loving husband and father. The way he handles his family's problems with ease and respect only makes people respect him more. The story of the Strait family has changed how people think about George Strait's impact. He made the songs, but it's also about the strength and love in his family. The hard times they've been through together make George's memory more approachable and personal. Even though his music will always be what defines him as a musician, the way he has helped his child through hard times has changed his image for a long time. In the end, the bigger picture is about understanding that being famous comes with its own set of problems. We can learn from the story of George Strait and Bubba that even famous people have problems in life. We need to help each other no matter what problems we face because of the love and strength of the Strait family. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Be sure to click on the next video popping up on your screen now.